Good evening, everyone, and welcome to When the Ship Hits the Fan. My name is Mark Jeffrey, and I'm here once again with my beautiful co-host, the Miss Linda Lehman, and together we are the Mistresses of the Mind Shift. And tonight, we're kind of tying up, as Linda says, tying up the year with a big, pretty bow, and getting, stoked up for the new year. And we're going to talk a little bit about, the things that we've learned this year and the things that made us stronger and the people we've run into and a whole lot of other things that we're going to try to jam pack into this little half an hour that we have. But we just wanted to close out the year letting you all know that no matter where you are or what's going on in your life, even if it's, like our lives, the most amazing lives that you have, there's always room for more. There's always room for better, more magnificent in your life if you just allow it to be. And along the road that we've been through this past year, we've met many, many, many people that are stuck in something that their mindset is in the place whereby they just feel that, I don't know, Linda, this is what they deserve. They're not going to ever get any better. They've just talked themselves right into not having what they need.
Oh, exactly, Mark. They step back and they decide that all that they can ever even dream about is mediocre or just living by default. Like whatever comes to them is what comes to them, and they don't think that they deserve any better, or most of the time they just don't know how to break that vicious cycle and get on to something bigger and better and greater than they've ever experienced before.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you though, Linda. I was kind of like that, except for nothing really bad ever happened to me. Like everything, I lived a charmed life. I mean, until I got cancer, I can honestly say it was a pretty bloody charmed life. Everything I wanted, everything I tackled, really, not really sometimes at first, but always, like my mom used to always say, I'm like a cat with 9 lives. I kept landing on my feet every single time. And of course, having cancer, I did the same thing again. But that was the first, outside of giving childbirth, that was something. But outside of that, I was living by default because there was no reason for me, I didn't feel like there was no reason for me to move really out of my comfort zone, because my comfort zone was a pretty cool place to be. And I didn't start accomplishing amazing things and tapping into my source of power until I did have cancer, and I got, slammed to the ground, a million elephants sitting on top of me, where I realized, wow, I've got some magic inside me, and it's time for me to start utilizing that power. And I'm wondering, we always talk about the people that are, downtrodden and not getting to where they want to go. But I'm going to stand on the other side of this and say there's a lot of people out there that could move mountains in this world, but like me, we're so stuck in this beautiful comfort zone, living the good life, that they're not giving back as much as they should either.
No, you're right, Mark. And I think back and things seemed to work out for me as well. I think that my questions came because I like you, there were things that I wanted and I dreamt about, but in the grand scheme of things, my life wasn't horrible. I grew up in a great family, supportive parents, but again, I was in a situation or living a life that I think was a life that was expected maybe that's the best term. You
Mm-hmm.
know, living in the same town I grew up in, going to school, getting a job there, getting together with family every weekend, and just kind of rolling along, and you know, where I was where I was. There wasn't a whole lot of growth, but there was this nagging feeling inside me that there seemed to be a push that there has to be more than this. There has to be more than this. And so sometimes I would answer that call to the, the amazement and the surprise of my family members and my close friends, because I was actually a person who would try to act on some of these feelings, thinking that, you know, there must be more. Let me go here. There must be more. Let me do this. And so without at that time even knowing what I was doing, I was actually stepping outside of that box, that comfort zone, trying to answer that nudge inside of there's something more, but I couldn't put my fingers on it. So I was the child in my family that moved out of state, and I was the child in my family that you know, kind of bucked the system when it came to somebody told me, it was my dad, and he was trying to be supportive, but he said, you know, you'll never earn the money you want to earn if you don't, you know, finish college. Well, I didn't finish college, yet, once again, I've bucked the system, and I've been creative, and I am earning what would be considered the big bucks or the big dollars, even though that college degree isn't behind my name. So when Mark and I talk, it's not necessarily that we're only targeting or only trying to talk to people who are backed in a corner and they're down and out, they're penniless, they're homeless, and they have no place else to go. Yes, we love helping folks in that situation, but we also most definitely want to expand awareness with everyone that you really can create and live the life of your dreams. You don't have to be confined to the four walls of a box.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I think, and just listening to you talk, I think that's what, I mean, I didn't feel it like you did. I mean, I was content. I will raise my hand and say, I have a great life. I cannot say that I would really do too much more with it, except for, you know, now I choose my projects. I guess for a long time I did what everybody else did. I mean, I had to pay bills, so, you know, but I mean, I started my own companies. I mean, I've done a lot in my life, and risk was never a factor, which maybe in some ways it probably should have. I might have saved myself some heartache and money along the way, but it's all been a great adventure for me. But listening to you, and I think that that's it. You know, you have people out there, and we have, you know, corporate women that, you know, say they want to stay home with their kids and raise them. They don't want strangers raising them and things like that. And, you know, we've talked about that before, because my daughter was a child of daycare, you know, a child of private daycare, mind you, and very selective in that. But I didn't do that because I had to. I could have certainly made different choices, but I wanted her to be integrated and be social and have little munchkins around, because I had an only child. I didn't have two or three. And it was funny, because I'll just jump way over the fence on this one, because I had a nephew that was raised as an only child, who was born long before my daughter was. And he seemed to be too much of an adult. Like, he didn't go play with the kids at the Christmas thing. He wanted to sit at the table with the adults. And somehow that kind of got me, must have put that little nugget in my mind that I didn't want my child to be that person. I wanted her to be a child and play with kids. And so I made that choice. But we all, you know, but there's other people that I'm here to say, it's choices, right, Linda? It's choices. Nobody can say to me, I don't care. I'll pick them. I'll throw a dart anywhere in the world that you want to go, and say that you have other choices. And when you fall victim to the status quo of, well, in Africa, everybody has AIDS, or, you're making yourself crazy, because that's not the truth. That's not the truth. I work with a girl right now who's going back to Africa. She's going to be married on Christmas Day in her village. None of them have AIDS, right? None of them are poverty-stricken. It's a beautiful village there. But we could certainly say that that's what it all is. It's like every corporate person or mom that doesn't raise their children is a bad mom. Well, it's not all right and it's not all wrong, but I think, like you, when you have that nagging little something that you want more, or what you have is not enough, yeah, Linda, I agree with you. You really have to challenge that, for sure.
Absolutely, Mark. And but again, I love that you picked the term choices. We all have a choice. We can ignore that urging and just say, you know what, this is as good as it gets, and I need to be satisfied with what I have and where I am, and unfortunately put a lid on that creativity spark, because that's what it is. We are part of this great big universe. So however you want to name it or call it, there's this energy that is part of the whole, and the universe is always expanding and growing, and that's that urge that we have inside of us, ourselves, is to answer that expansion and answer that growth, and continue to experience life to the fullest, and learn new things and meet new people, and grow in ways we never thought possible. When I was little, I thought that, okay, well, once you finish with school, you're done with learning. That's the worst thing we can ever do, is to stop learning, because there's so many interesting things on a daily basis to learn and to pick up on, and that just helps us. It helps us to feel, I believe, even more fulfilled, which is another piece of what we're here to do. We're here to enjoy life. We're here to be fulfilled and satisfied, and go after those dreams, and just make those mistakes, and then turn around and laugh at them. And realize that they're there to maybe either make us laugh and or help us grow in a way that we hadn't thought about before. But again, it's all choice. We can sit like a lump, or we can go out and have the big adventure. And Mark, I choose a big adventure.
Well, yeah, and I think too that people will say, well, I don't have enough money to do this or that or whatever, and I challenge that for sure, because all of my life, if I wanted something, I knew the dollar value of whatever it was, and in my heart, in my mind, I would do anything to get it. So if I had to work 3 jobs to, take a vacation that I wanted to take, or I had to, paper route and flipping burgers, it didn't matter to me. My eye was on the prize. And I think that is built inside of me, just a method of the way that I work. I look at something and, I say, okay, well, I don't want to be in Canada this winter. It's going to be horrible winter, or as soon as it gets below -10, I'm out of here. I like to be able to know that. But while it's +5, I'm working on my business, making sure that I get enough padding in it that I can just take off. And I guess that's why I love the internet lifestyle too, right? Because it doesn't matter where I am. I can work anywhere. So, I mean, that's kind of like, and not everybody can do this. Too many people, Linda, you and I both seen this in our coaching, too many people jump into this and you just don't have the skills yet to pull it off. Do not quit your job.
Exactly. I'm a prime example. I'm doing and enjoying both.
Mhm.
I haven't quit the job. Actually, I kind of like what I do.
Well, I was just going to say, I'd be surprised, if you didn't always have a hand in that, because, when you're really good at something and you really enjoy something, I don't think anybody should say, well, you have a job, because you know what? That people go, oh, just over broke, and you know what? Sorry, people, but that's not the whole world. That's somebody out there trying to entice you to do something that you probably shouldn't do yet.
Mhm. Exactly. I mean, what is a job, or even working for yourself? Even when you're an entrepreneur and you're working for yourself, you're self-proclaimed working for yourself, you're really working for other people anyway, because you're working for your customers.
Mhm.
So if you are working for someone else, a corporation, but you enjoy what you do, you're bringing value to the table, you get up every morning excited to do what you're doing and meet the people that you're meeting. Now, how is that job a bad word?
I don't think it is. But like I said, I don't think everybody in the world. I mean, let's just put it. And I have to say something. I've got a stack of books. I have ghosts here. I have a stack of books that keeps just sliding off here. And sorry, but if I go every once in a while, because I'm trying to catch them and trying to be nonchalant about it, but I just can't. So give me a second. I'm putting them back up. There you go. All right. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to have the whole crash on my computer, knock the whole show offline, and here I go again. So back to what we were talking about. I don't believe that. Well, I'm going to be straight up about this. I believe that there's just a very few people that will ever really make a lot of money working for themselves, starting a business either online or off, because I'm going to tell you this. Most of the people that I know don't have the discipline to pull it off. They just simply don't. When you have somebody that you're accountable to, that's why I like our show, right? We're accountable to each other. Like, we got to show up. Otherwise, I'm sure there's some Mondays I'm going, yeah, no, I'd probably just rather eat popcorn. I'll just ditch this one. I could do that, but I'm accountable to Linda, so I don't if I show up. And I think that some people, when you have a business that you're the only person that you're accountable to, outside of, you got to pay bills and maybe you've got a spouse, and I mean, I'm not going to discount that stuff. That's all important. But I don't think many people can pull it off, Linda. You have to. I mean, we're entrepreneurs. Okay, in our real lives, let's separate this. In our online world that we work with coaching and our online businesses is one thing. But in our real life, Linda and I are both entrepreneurs. Like, we have businesses in the brick and mortar world too that we actually run. Mm-hmm. So we've got some skills here. It's not to say you can't learn them, but there's that entrepreneurial spirit, that drive to go beyond, like you talking about, that little niggling that gets bigger and bigger and you just have to burst out of it. That's inside of both of us. And I really believe that, the why, that's great. Like, I want to quit my job. I want to have a better life for my family. But if you don't have that power inside you of the entrepreneur, that wolf, that hunger, I don't even know how to express it, Linda, but you know what I know, the feeling when you get up in the morning and you're driving the day.
Mm-hmm. Right. You're in charge of the day, and you know that you have this day in the palm of your hand, and you're the orchestra director, and you're directing that day instead of the day directing you. And you know that you've got it. You're an entrepreneur, and Mark, I want to help our listeners understand that they can do both. I think one of the biggest lessons, one of many, that I learned from my mentor Bob Proctor is having multiple sources of income. That's how the entrepreneurs make it. You don't have one thing, but you also don't have multiple jobs. You get yourself set up and have money working for you and people working for you, because there's only 24 hours in a day. So, yeah, we both have brick and mortar businesses that we're a huge part of, and we have our coaching and other online things that we're doing, and we're building this momentum, this multiple sources of income. That's the way you make things happen.
Mm-hmm. That's the way you get real comfortable with your life. And you know what? People will call it risky, but there's less risk. Because if something doesn't pan out, you know, you always know that, hey, I've got these other things happening and I can ride through that. And I guess that's one difference, that when somebody has a specific job and that's all that they have. But gosh, you know, Lynn, I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know too many of my friends. I guess, and we're talking about the law of attraction. I mean, you got a new course coming up here soon too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have very many friends that have just a job. Like they're involved in, like they might do something from 9 to 5, but then they're a master yoga teacher, you know, or they run marathons. Like they just don't. They have such well-rounded adventures of lives, and I guess that's why I'm attracted to them, because they keep me in the game, and you know, I like hanging with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't have jobs, like they have a career, many of them. I don't even think any of them would call what they do a job at all, because for most of them, it isn't a job. It's not, because job to me has such a negative connotation to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got to do that job. I got to do the housework. Whereas when you love what you do, it's just part of your life.
Right. It's
I
that
don't know.
spark that gets you up in the morning and helps you stay interested and excited about the entire day. And it can be anything. You know, the way I look at it is, if I am making a difference, if I'm bringing value to other people, who cares what you call it? I don't care. I'm not a big title person. I never have been. So, you know, who cares what it is, as long as I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. And I know that what I did today and the people that I touched today, I know I left them with something special.
Mhm. Yeah, and then it sparks something else, right? It sparks you to go on. Like, okay, and it was, and you just go and you just do, and you never get stuck because you're moving too fast. You know, when you run across quicksand and you don't stop, you don't go down.
Right.
You know, when you walk across fire and you don't stop, you don't get burned.
Exactly. And we are both testaments to that.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, you know, Mark, one of the things that we were going to kind of do today is, as I mentioned earlier and you mentioned earlier about, you know, tying this year up in a bow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things that people hear me preach all the time is, you know, don't look backwards, don't look backwards. And I'm a big advocate about not looking backwards, except toward the end of the year, at the end of the year, just to reflect back on the year of accomplishments. I mean, too many people, when they look back, they're looking at all of the things that didn't go as they planned. But when I sit down at the end of the year, and then I sit down with a piece of paper and a pen in my hand, and I just start saying, okay, let me just take a big look at this past year, and I want to put down on paper all of my accomplishments, big and small, and then just start remembering them and writing them down and getting into the feeling of, you know, that accomplished, fulfilled feeling as I think about all of the things that I've experienced throughout the year. And again, it can be big things, it can be small things, but just start jotting them down. And you know what happens, Mark, is when you really take the time to do this, and again, it's a positive look back, what I find that happens is it starts building this great, big, positive momentum that I'm going to then take into the next year. So I'm already beginning the next year full of excitement and energy and expectation because I know that every year is better than the year before it and the one before it and the one before it. So by spending this time to really focus on all of the great accomplishments throughout the year, you're really setting a great stage and a great foundation for what you want to accomplish in the next year.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. And I think it's a good idea, too, that, the setbacks or the things that maybe, you didn't quite arrive at. I think sometimes you have to sit back and balance it and maybe take a good look at it. Were they worth it anyways? Sometimes what we don't achieve is better for us. And I know oh gosh, it sounds so frivolous, doesn't it? Like when you lose your job and somebody says, oh, there'll be something better for you, and you just want to smack them. But then you realize it was better when you get that other job. Like when you redirect where you're at, like sometimes you get shoved out the door and sometimes you get to walk out of it.
Right. And you can go gracefully or not. Again, it's your choice. But it's all in how we respond to that too. I mean, you can look at a job loss, and I know it can be devastating. And I say, okay, if you want to be devastated, allow that 5 minutes, but then pick yourself up, find the lesson in it, and trudge forward. Because if you truly believe that there's something bigger and better out there for you, which I believe, then it's time for the next adventure. And maybe you needed that hammer across your head to boot you out because you were so deeply ingrained in your comfort zone, you didn't see that this wasn't the job for you anymore, that you had outgrown it already.
Mhm. Yeah, and and it's funny because just one instance of that for me, and I know we're getting down to the bottom of the half hour here, but just quickly, is when I was working for a sheet metal company, and they got bought out by somebody else, and so I lost my job because the daughter of the people who bought it, she had the same credentials I did. Well, of course you're going to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it was at a bad time. I mean, I was a single mom and stuff like that, right? But it led me to taking a job as a kind of quasi-receptionist at this clothing manufacturing company that I ended up buying when it went bankrupt. So if I would have still been with the sheet metal place, that opportunity wouldn't have come, and I wouldn't have had the adventure of owning my own clothing company. So it all, like, you can look back, but I know standing in the middle of it, sometimes you don't see it. But like you said, Linda, when you look back at it, see the value that's there. Like you say, learn the lesson. Well, see the value, learn the lesson, and take the lesson forward. And to all of you, from me, that's the last thing I'll say tonight. If you're in a really sad place right now, because I know Christmas for a lot of people just, isn't the best time of year, I want you to just take one moment and appreciate the fact that you're still breathing. I mean, I'm hard-laced on that because I almost lost my life, so I'm pretty adamant about this. You're still breathing, so it can't all be that bad.
Oh, that's beautiful, Mark. Gratitude is so powerful. And, this time of year, if you're right, it's a really good time for us to look around and realize that. And even Mark, and this will be, I guess, my closing remarks, just take a pause and look around you. No matter what's going on around you, just all of a sudden stop. I did this exercise the other day, and it was just amazing to me. I just started looking around. I was sitting in my favorite chair in my living room, and then I started looking around, and I realized that particular moment in time was absolutely perfect. There was nothing bad in that moment happening. I had my comfortable chair. I was very grateful for that. I have this roof over my head. I have electricity right now, which is awesome. I liked my furniture. I like where I live. And so I just started ticking off all of these things that I was grateful for in that immediate moment. And gosh, the enormous power that I felt inside as I started doing this. Again, that was a momentum thing too, that took me into the next moment and the next moment. So no matter where you are or what you're going through, take a moment to be grateful, as Mark said, for the fact that you are still breathing, and then start to expand that gratitude out. Okay, I'm breathing, I'm comfortable, I have clothes on, and be grateful for every little thing surrounding you in that moment. It's going to take you to more things that you can be grateful for.
Yeah, totally awesome, Linda. I love that. I love that. And as I'm thinking, I'm looking around my office and the things and all the gratitude that I have in my heart. Linda and I have one more show before we break for our Christmas and taking some time for us and our families. And we're gonna lay down some tracks for you so you can get, you can power into January, specific steps and things that we're doing ourselves. We are physically doing ourselves that we hope that will help you. But for tonight, just take it all in. Take big, deep breath and have the gratitude for your life. So for me here in Canada, and it's warm here today, good night, everybody.
And good night from Linda down in Florida, and I want to thank each of you for listening.
You betcha. Good night, everyone.